What's going on, everybody? Hopefully, you're having a great day. So, obviously, I got to talk about game one of the NBA Finals, right? There's been all this buildup. Was it 9, 10 days where we didn't have any games? All the analysts talking about how great the Mavs are. You're pointing out what the Celtics can do, everything like that, all the hypotheticals and everything. But we finally got down to the actual games last night. So, like I said, game one happened. As you can tell from the title, the Celtics got the win, take the 1-0 series lead. But I also say you never really want to overreact to a game one because it's the first to 4 wins, not the first to 1. So with that, there were 5 things that I saw from game one that I'm interested to see if these things continue in game two. Because after game two, I feel like you'll start creating narratives, or you'll start really paying attention to some of these trends after 2 games. After one, like I said, you don't want to overreact to it because teams can make an adjustment in the game two. Then the series kind of shifts a little bit. So let's go ahead and get into the 5 observations that I made based off of last night's game one, which the Celtics won 107-89. So here we go. First off, we got to talk about Kristaps Porzingis. He hadn't played in, was it 39 days or 38 days? He had the calf injury. A lot of people were wondering if we were going to see him again. They held him out basically all playoff run. Game one, he told everybody he's going to be fine. The injury report completely clean for the Celtics, so we knew he was going to play. The question was going to be, was Mazzulla going to put him straight into the starting lineup, which is where he has been, or as we saw, Mazzulla decided to bring him off the bench, which, I mean, you can't argue with the results after what we saw. Also, to backtrack, Windhorse, who was on ESPN, said the team went out for warm-ups and shoot-around and everything like that. Porzingis kind of stayed behind, came out a few minutes later, to which he said the crowd completely popped for, and the crowd was great. So Porzingis, he enters the game a couple minutes in, crowd erupts, of course, but I'm sure you did, like I, was paying attention to, how is he going to be movement-wise on the court? If you never had a calf injury or an Achilles injury, because a lot of times those two are connected, movement is the biggest thing. Now, Porzingis isn't necessarily the slightest of foot, but I feel like for his size, he does move pretty well. We saw that kind of early on. We saw him drive to the hoop to the left, finish at the rim, which this is the graphic that you're seeing. We saw him, chasing down Josh Green, who was in the open floor on a breakaway, looking to throw down a hammer dunk to get kind of Dallas going. Porzingis was there, went up with him, blocked it clean. He got into his office in the offense where he kind of hangs around the free throw line. They create a mismatch. They throw it down to him. He, will either pump fake, go to the rim, or just shoot over him, or a little sidestep shoot. He did that. We've seen, him over the course of the season walk into threes trailing the play and knock those down. He did that last night. So he did everything that we saw him do pre-injury all last night. Now we're going to see, how does the calf feel, the next day, 2 days, because they have 2 days off. We'll see how the calf feels as he goes into a game 2 on Sunday. But, he put up 20.6 rebounds. He had, how many blocks did he have? He had 3 blocks. So great performance from him. And I want to see in game 2, what does Dallas do to try to combat Porzingis? Because if Porzingis plays like this, the way he did in game 1, Dallas might be in a bit of trouble. Let's move on to the next observation. Hold on a second. That did not come in correctly. There we go. Jaylen Brown. Now, okay, so I've been watching, ESPN and everything. They're talking about how Jaylen Brown's playing mad because he was snubbed from All NBA. I mean, a lot of you on ESPN left him off your ballot. So, obviously, they and others have not been paying attention to the kind of year Jaylen Brown's had. All this talk about his contract and everything, whether he deserves it. You saw last night a guy that is a two-way player, meaning he makes an impact defensively and offensively. The defense part I'll talk about a little bit later in the video, but offensively, and this is another thing I can't stand with a lot of the talking heads that are analysts or journalists. They sit here and create this where, we have to compare Brown and Tatum all the time. Tatum's supposed to be the better one, but are we seeing Brown as the better player, which means Tatum is overrated and all this kind of stuff? I think Jay Williams said it like a couple of weeks ago. He's going to now refer to them as a tandem because you have to realize Jaylen Brown does all this because of the fact that defenses pay more attention to Tatum, which, like I said, it's not to knock Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is probably my favorite player in the league, to be honest with you. But he is able to play off of Tatum just as well as Tatum can play off of Brown. So all of this talk about which one's better, can they play together? Do they have to move one to get the best version out of them? It's like, stop trying to create something that isn't there. They are a duo. They work. Get over it. So a lot of times, Tatum will have the ball at the top. The defense is focusing on him. They'll swing the ball around. The ball gets to Brown. He's now going against the defense that's trying to recover, but he's so good off the dribble. Yes, he can use his left hand, which that's another narrative that's got to go away. He can finish at the rim. We saw it last night with him. He went through, who was it? Luka, and it might have been Kyrie at the top. Gets by them. Then he went around PJ Washington and dunked it at the rim. So Jaylen Brown put together a complete performance. He was the leading scorer. He had 22. He had 6 rebounds to go with it. I believe he had 3 steals, 3 blocks, I think. Yes. So he filled the stat sheet. And this is the Jaylen Brown that we've seen over the past couple of weeks, or at least the Jaylen Brown that people are starting to pay attention to. But this is also the Jaylen Brown that we saw all season. He told people way back before the season started, when they moved Marcus Smart, he was going to become like a vocal leader. He was going to fill that void. I feel like that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a guy that is coming into his own, being more comfortable being who he is. And we've also seen it with the way he talks post-game and everything. Like, he is done with all the, trying to garner respect. He knows he has it in that locker room. And now the only thing that matters is getting that title. So we'll see if this continues over the next few games. Because once again, like I said about Porzingis, if you get this version of Jaylen Brown in this series, Dallas has a problem. All right, third observation. Jason Tatum. A lot of people are looking at Jason Tatum and they're like, oh, he struggled. Can the Celtics win if he continues to struggle like this? Yeah, he only had 16 points, right? That's, I guess, pretty pedestrian. He had 11 rebounds. Now, the fact that Tatum has actually done this pretty much all season, he's become I can't remember how much he averaged over the season, I want to say he averaged like 8 or 9 rebounds a game. But we've seen a lot of these playoff games where he's giving you 10, 11, 12 rebounds on a consistent basis. And in this game, we saw instances where he was switched onto Lively or Gafford. A shot goes up, he's blocking them out, he's coming down with the rebound. That's the kind of stuff that he's doing in lieu of him forcing up shots, trying to score 35 a night. He's become a more mature player. And with that, he is fine playing a playmaking type role, because one thing that I guess the box score won't tell you is on a lot of possessions when Tatum had the ball up top, he was able to get into the lane pretty easily. Now, it was at that point where, because of the way Dallas was playing defense, he'd run into like 2-3 guys in front of the rim, and he was, sending the ball out into the corner to a Derek White or an Al Horford. And whether or not they take the shot, and maybe, a defender runs at them, now they're swinging the ball around to the wing and then back up top. So he had 5 assists. But I guarantee if, you track like hockey assists, which is, pass that leads to the assist, he definitely had some of those as well. So the scoring may not have been where you want it, but the impact that he had was definitely there. So I thought Jason Tatum played a great game. And like I said, for game 2, we're going to have to see, can Dallas keep him out of the paint? I mean, he shot 6 for 16, but you also have to look at that as there were times he went to the rim, was met with, Lively, PJ Washington or Gafford. He did take a bump, didn't get a call. And that's fine, because, the game was pretty physical. I don't have a problem with that. But this notion, because I heard this when I did some watch-alongs all through this playoff run. Oh, Tatum and Luka complained more than anybody. There were definitely times where Tatum could have went off. Probably would have gotten a technical, because we all know he doesn't get the long leash with the referees that Luka does. He didn't do that. He'd get back on defense. So I get it. This has been the postseason of Tatum disrespect, but we have to be real with ourselves. Tatum played well last night. So we'll see in game 2 if there's an adjustment up top in terms of who Dallas throws at him. Do they switch their coverages or anything like that? We'll see. But like I said, Tatum had a great game. Even if you just look at the box score and you don't think so, you watch the game, he played well. So now looking at for Dallas, because that was the 3 observations, top 3 Celtics. I mean, as a Celtics fan, I started with my squad. Looking at Dallas, one thing I can say is, Luka, if you're looking at everything, 30 points, 10 rebounds, you'd say, oh, he had a pretty dominant performance. Here's the difference, though. He needed 26 shots to get to the 30 points. The Celtics made it difficult on him. He had a couple of times where he was able to come off a screen, get to the rim pretty easily, and lay it in. That's fine. That's going to happen with Luka. But for the most part, they made Luka work. There was an instance in the game where Luka went down on offense. I think missed at the rim, way to the bench because he needed a breather. Went back on defense, had to get back on defense. I think the Celtics scored. He waited to the bench again like, I need to come out. They made Luka work when he was on the defensive end, which I think is something Minnesota failed to do, because that's where this thing came up with Luka and Kyrie defense being much improved. Yeah. Okay. So what was the difference is you had situations where, Tatum and Brown go up against Luka. Luka does that little hip check thing once you get by him. The difference was Tatum and Brown were still strong with their dribble heading towards the hoop. I think a lot of times Minnesota took that bump, fell back, trying to get a foul call, and then Luka gets back into position. It didn't happen last night. That's where a lot of the breakdowns happened defensively for Dallas. Also, Brown, in like key instances, you find him guarding Luka, and he hassled Luka. I do think, kind of because of the mood and the image of Jaylen Brown right now, a man that's all about business, I think we're going to see a lot more Jaylen Brown on Luka. That might be an issue the longer this series goes, because Luka looked like a guy who, he might have to put up 45 in order for them to win a game or two in this series. So the Celtics' pressure on Luka, I thought, was much better than anything Minnesota did against them. So we'll have to see if that trend continues. Even though Luka did get his 30, he had his 10 rebounds. Key stat to kind of let you know how that defense worked for the Celtics, Luka only had 1 assist. 1. So they were able to collapse on Luka and recover way better than Minnesota. That's why Minnesota is not in this position. They focused on Luka and Kyrie up top and then just left guys like PJ Washington and stuff in the corners to destroy them. Celtics didn't do that. Celtics were able to collapse on Luka. Once he picked up his dribble, scramble out to those guys. And that's why he only had the 1 assist. So we'll have to see what Jason Kidd comes up with. I don't know, maybe you put Luka off the ball a little bit more in game 2. I don't know. We'll see what the adjustment is there for Dallas. Then the final one. Good old Kyrie. The guy that Kendrick Perkins said, "Oh, don't boo Kyrie. Can't boo Kyrie. He fuels off of that." All right. So I guess if fueling off of that is 12 points on 6 of 19 shooting, 0 for 5 from 3, then yeah, Celtics fans stop booing him. It's so simple to see why Celtics fans boo him. Because if you listen to the boos, at least the way they came through on ABC, fans are only doing it at this point because it still has the same effect on Kyrie, where he looks checked out. He had some turnovers in that game that were baffling. He was dribbling on the wing. I think Kleber was up top, and Kyrie threw a low, dribbling pass to him that wasn't within 10 feet of him. I don't know who Kyrie was throwing that to. We saw him on a couple of occasions where the Celtics defense kind of miscommunication had a breakdown. Kyrie was left with wide open shots, bricked them. And this is a guy that, coming up to the series, it was, Luka and Kyrie, how unguardable they've been. Magically, he comes back to his the TD Garden, his arena of horrors, and this is the performance he put in. So Celtics fans are going to continue to boo him when he keeps putting up numbers the way he did in game 1. And like I said, the boos weren't even as bad as they've been in previous years, which Kyrie, look, all these people on TV that are analysts and journalists, usually you pay attention to trends, right? So how come after the game Kyrie put in, he goes to the post-game press conference, what's something he automatically says, right? Oh, he understands the fans. He knew what he was getting into. He thought they would have been a little bit louder. This is the same guy who previous times he's gone to Boston has cried about them booing, wondering why they boo him. Now he wants to know why they weren't louder. And then I get up the next day, and one of the first notifications on my phone was CBS Sports, Kyrie wonders why the crowd wasn't louder. And I'm like, they're falling for it again. Kyrie, if there's anything you know he learned from LeBron, manipulating the media. Because he knew what the questions were going to look like. And the fact that he just threw out there, he thought the crowd was going to be louder. Everybody took that and ran with, oh, Kyrie's in a different place. Maybe the Celtics fans aren't, as whatever as they've been. And it's like he's deflecting off the fact that all his talk that he had before game one, he didn't live up to any of it in game one. But now he's pushing it, deflecting it towards the crowd. So I'm not going to say he's going to repeat this performance in game two, because I do think when you look at Kyrie playing with Luka, I would say he seems like a different person, I guess. But then again, if he has a game two like he did in game one, I don't know. That's going to be bad for Dallas. I think Luka's gonna get his. I don't worry about Luka. This is a dude, Luka's a dude who's been playing professionally since he was 13, 14 years old. And yeah, you may not know a lot about European basketball. I mean, I don't know a lot about European basketball, but I know he played in some environments over there, just because I know European soccer and European basketball is similar, that were hostile. So Luka's used to this. I still have questions about Kyrie, whether or not, especially when it comes to Boston, if he can handle it. It still gets to him after all of these years. As talented of a player as Kyrie is, Boston's crowd still gets to him. So that's all I got for you. Those are my 5 observations from game one. You let me know in the comment section, what you thought about the game. Because I started off saying I had the Celtics in 6. Once again, not going to overreact to game one, so I'm not going to do like some who think like it could be a sweep now or 5. I will stick with 6, but I do feel a lot better about that prediction after game one. Yes, I do, but we'll see. We'll see with game 2. We'll see what adjustments are made. I should be live for game 2 for the watch along on Sunday night. So would love to see a lot of you, in the chat, joining the conversation with me during the game, having fun. But yeah, so game 1's in the books. We now have a couple of days before game 2 gets underway. Like I said, Sunday. There's probably going to be a lot of talking and everything between now and then on TV, but at least the games are being played. And I do think it's going to be an entertaining series. As big of a blowout as last night was at times, I thought it was entertaining. Yes, as a Celtics fan, all of us found it entertaining. But I do think that third quarter, when Luka and Dallas made their move, I thought that was a great thing for the game. It was needed, because then the Celtics kind of snapped out of that, which before I get out of here, I should say, we got to give Mazzulla credit. We got to give him credit. He made the decision with Porzingis, which worked out during that run. He did his thing where he doesn't call timeout immediately because he wants to see the team fight out of it, which the team has said they love that about Mazzulla. He waited until, Luka made the 3, smirked at the crowd, which on the broadcast they talked about, oh, we saw that look against Minnesota. We saw that look against the Clippers. Yeah, we saw it against the Celtics, and then what happened? Mazzulla calls a timeout. The Celtics come out of that timeout and go on like an 11-0 run before you blink. And the lead was just back up to 20 again. So Mazzulla needs his flowers. So does Sam Cassell, Charles Lee, those guys. You could definitely tell that they have helped Joe Mazzulla this season, and he's a much better coach for it. because there's a lot on the line for Joe Mazzulla as well. I think a title would give him the respect that he deserves. Like, he was put in a tough spot, taking over for Udoka the way that he did, kind of last minute notice, right before the season. Last season, he found himself, and this season, like I said, with the addition of Cassell and Lee, he looks like a better coach. Look, I'm happy for him because I actually think Joe Mazzulla can be a good coach. So we'll just see. Only game one. Celtics are up 1-0. I love it, but we'll see what the response is from Dallas in game two, and we'll see if the Celtics come out the same way they did in game one, where they just completely like blitzed Dallas to the tune of 37-20 first quarter lead by the end of the first quarter. Let's see if that happens again in game two. So appreciate you tuning in, checking out the video. I always appreciate all of you. So enjoy the rest of your day. As I say all the time, be safe. God bless. I'll check it in the next video or live watch along. Like I said, game two, I should be live. But until then, I'm out of here. All right.